And for anyone chancing upon this programme who is not frozen in the dark, welcome to this special production for a guaranteed audience of 43.
I'm joined today by Liam Brady, a real legend of the game. Liam, thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome.
I know you've been involved with football in Thailand with the Thai Youth Football Home in Phuket. Can you tell me a bit about the experience and the young players you worked with?
Well, the football home in Phuket is it's called a football home, but it's basically to give orphan kids a chance. You know, kids that have been abandoned in many cases, and it gives them a focus. They're well looked after. They're well fed. They go to school, probably doing things that they wouldn't necessarily do if they had remained where they were. On top of that, they get a football program. It's run by a chap called Hagen now. It used to be Hanu, Finnish chap. Hagen's German. The football home was created by a guy called Henrik over 20 years ago when I was still reasonably fit, Simon. I used to play for Henrik's Vets team in Hong Kong and Singapore. As a thank you, he took the players. It was only 7-a-side football, you know. He took the players here to the banyan tree. My wife and I liked it so much that we ended up buying a property. And because I'm not that far from the youth football home, I'm a patron of the football home. And I try to help as much as I can, you know. So it gives kids a chance to enjoy themselves by playing football, and they have a great time, boys and girls, and they've had some very, very good players. I think some of them have gone on to play professionally in Thailand, but that wouldn't have happened had they not, you know, had Henrik not created this football home.
I've been to the home. It's probably the best pitch on Phuket. I follow Phuket, so I know that their pitch is awful in comparison. So people often say that's where the team should play. How would you compare the talent and the way that they're trained compared to what you've seen at Arsenal and elsewhere? It's probably hard to.
Well, yeah, Hanu and Hagen are, you know, they're good coaches. They know what they're on about. But, you know, we can't compare it to an academy because I ran the academy at Arsenal for many years. And you can't compare it to that because we've scouted those kids for their football ability. Now, these kids are coming into this home. It's not all about their football ability. It's about their circumstances, you know, and how needy they are and how much help they require. So you couldn't compare the academy in Phuket to an academy, let's say, in Europe.
Of course.
However, there is always some good talent, and they've had some good talent. And I think the Thai kids are skillful, very skillful, adept at dribbling and all those things. What goes against them is their physicality, really, when they come up against, you know, bigger, stronger lads.
Yeah.
So
I think it's changing.
It's a great idea, and it's been going for over 20 years. And, you know, I'm happy with my involvement. I usually send the kids every second year or so a load of discarded football boots that the academy at Arsenal don't want. I'm well in with the kit man at Arsenal and the academy, so the kids benefit.
Good stuff. You talk about the physicality, and I think that's something which is slowly changing in Thailand with more sort of mixed race kids coming into the game, especially in the national team. You can really see it's improving, but technically they are very good. I think often they're let down by the tactics, would be my say, and you know,
naivety.
Yeah.
And
I think the mentality is there from the academies in Europe and the UK. You start at such an early age, where here you don't. You start probably at sort of 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, you missed out on some very important years then. Yeah.
Have you ever had a chance of watching much Thai football, or you seen much of the game?
I went to a match. I got to know a guy called Brian McCare, who was running a team up in Bangkok. I know there's several teams in Bangkok.
Yeah.
But I went to one of his games one day. That was interesting. I think they won, and I can't remember the name of his team.
I mean,
I enjoyed myself. There wasn't many people at the match. There was a couple of thousand, you know. But it was good fun.
I think it's
tell me, is there any British involvement with Thai football now? Have we got any coaches over here? Some of my ex-players actually played over here. I think Jay Boothroyd. Can you remember that name?
Yeah, Jay Boothroyd played for Muangthong for about 6 months before he moved on to Japan afterwards. He
Yeah,
did very well.
yeah.
Robbie Fowler managed here for a while at Muangthong.
Did he?
We've had a few.
Was Peter Wiss involved with the national team and his son, I believe?
Yeah, I had them on. They were on the podcast last week. So
Are they?
and Peter's, he's had some involvement still. And Jason managed BEC Tero, won the double there for a while.
Yeah.
We've got a British owner for the Phuket team currently, and they're doing okay. They're sort of holding their weight. And there's players in and about. I think there's a lot of interest now to invest in youth football here to bring players through, because everyone's trying to look for that unseen gem, aren't they? And bring it into the football elsewhere. But it's getting competitive. I mean, there was a game on Sunday between Buriram and Port, and there were 30,000 people watching it. So, I mean,
Was that in Bangkok?
that's in Buriram, which is up north near Siam. But they've built like a huge stadium and a MotoGP arena there. It's
taking off.
hugely there. I mean, elsewhere, the numbers since COVID have fallen a bit, but it's getting there. And there is investment and people interested, but it all takes time. And as you said, the standard isn't hard. I think most Thais will still follow a Premiership team rather than follow a local
team. Yeah.
And that takes time. I mean, that could be the same for many, many places around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you do how do you raise that standard of football here? Is it just education, you think?
Well, you mentioned it's probably getting them into good coaching much earlier. Good scouting, you need good scouts out and about to find these kids. There's 2 kids now in the Arsenal first team, Nanwari and Skelly. They've probably been with the club since they were 6.5, 7. That's different.
It's education from a really early age.
Yeah.
And I think that allows for that mentality, because, I mean, we've had Thai players in the past. Like there was a player called Chanatip, Zico, he was known here, and he went to Huddersfield under Steve Bruce, and everyone thought he would do really well. And he was the big rising hope, and he never even got a game. Same, there was a Sufanat who's one of the best players here now, and he went to Belgium, and he did okay. He got some games, but they could never really break that mentality of adapting to the game, the competitiveness. I think that takes a long time.
Yeah. It will. It's an emerging nation, isn't it, Thailand, when it comes to football,
So
the Japanese didn't really have a history of football 50 years ago, but now they're very, very strong, and Koreans as well.
Exactly, yeah. I think, how much time would you spend on the academy on the mental side, on developing that competitiveness? And
if your coach is good, he'll instill that into the players. He'd tell them what's needed. It's not only skill. It's not only tactical awareness. You've got to have that determination and will to win, strong mentality. And I think that comes from the culture at the club, and it comes from the coaches. The coaches give the boys and girls that determination, and there's a big turnover in academies. Not every kid goes on to have a career in football. Some of them just fall by the wayside because they haven't got what you're talking about. They haven't got that mental aptitude or determination to be a footballer, or dedication.
I think a lot of that comes from home as well.
It's a lot of things have got to come together to get a footballer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, many fall by the wayside. Thinking back to your own career, you moved abroad twice. Obviously, first time to England, and then later on to Ireland. How did you cope with that change? So Italy, yeah, obviously.
Well, I made one mistake, so you've made one as well.
Yeah. How did you cope with that change? Obviously, at a young age, you were 15, 16 when you first moved?
Yeah, I was 15. I came to London, but I had brothers who were pro footballers before me.
Pat and
Ray, and they played for Millwall and Queen's Park Rangers. And they didn't go back to Ireland. They stayed in England after their career was finished. There was a big gap between my older brothers and me. So when I went to London, I had their support. I also had another brother living in London. So I wasn't in any way forlorn. I was helped both by the club. Arsenal really looked after me. And then I had my brothers to fall back on. But it was hard. You are homesick. You want to make it so much as a footballer that you're prepared to sacrifice a bit of happiness to get where you want to get. My story is I came to Arsenal when I was 13 on a trial, did well, and they brought me over on summer holidays and Christmas holidays just to get me adapted to coming and living with a host family. I left school when I was 15, so I knew what I was going into. And of course, within 2 years, I had David O'Leary and Frank Stapleton with me. We were all Dublin kids, so that was good.
Yeah, you had a network both off the pitch and on the pitch to really help support you there.
Yeah. We were like brothers, really. O'Leary, Stapleton, and myself. So some brothers don't hang about together, do they? You know, we didn't hang about together. We had different things we enjoyed, but the fact that we were there, all from Northside Dublin, I think it helped all of us together.
Commonality, yeah. And then later on in your career, you moved to Italy, obviously with great success at Juventus and Sampdoria and a few others along the way. Was that an easy adaptation because you were a bit older?
I was 24, so I was quite young to go. But Kevin Keegan had gone towards the end of his career to Hamburg from Liverpool, and he made a big success of it. And he was such a big superstar, Keegan, that we all followed what he was doing in Hamburg. And he was an example of how it should be done. And I tried to emulate what he did. I thought I might be going to Germany as well. I'd had contact with Bayern Munich. But the Italians opened up the borders to foreign players in 1980. I was lucky. Probably Juventus wanted other players in front of me, but they couldn't get them. So I was about probably fourth or fifth down the list. I had played against Juventus in the European Cup Winners' semi-final, European Cup Winners' Cup semi-final, and we knocked them out. We drew 1-1 at Highbury in London, and then we beat them in Turin 1-0. And I played quite well, and I think that put me on the radar.
I mean, you had a great couple of seasons there before. I think you moved on in the end because of the foreign player quota. It didn't allow for enough players to be there, really.
Well, yeah, but before I got signed by Juventus, I think they wanted to sign Platini, but they couldn't get him then. And then after 2 years, they could get him, and I was let go, basically. But they looked after me financially, and I had 2 great years there. And look, he was a better player than me, and there's no doubt about that.
It's very modest.
Yeah. No, I scored 8 goals in my best season, Simon. He scored 19 from the same position. So that says it all.
They didn't quite have your left foot, though. But
no, I probably had a better left foot than his left foot.
And you obviously speak fluent Italian.
Eh?
You learned Italian while you were there, yes?
Yeah, I learned Italian, yeah. There's quite a few Italians over from Italy. They come here for the winter, a bit like me. And I play golf with them, and we talk. They don't speak much English, so I've got to speak my Italian, and we have some good fun. Yeah, I go to Italy. I ring my mates up, ex-players, and I made some friends as well. Ring them up, and I speak to them in Italian. Yeah, I get by.
I mean, that must make a big difference compared to a lot of professionals these days. I feel a lot of English players move abroad. They never really make that effort to learn the language as such.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake. I think they should. It's great to hear, I don't know, we've got Gabriel playing for Arsenal. He does an interview. He does it in English, and his English is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it should be. They should make an effort.
Of course.
In the native country. My Thai is not very good, though.
No, I've been here way too long. My Thai is still not very good either. It gets passable.
Yeah.
So looking back at your playing days, what was the club you were most proud of playing for? Was it the Arsenal years, or you probably had more success at Juventus?
Yeah, well, we won 2 league titles at Juventus, but we did win the cup at Arsenal, and we hit the bar a few times, and we got to the Cup Winners' Cup final, and we got beat on penalties by Valencia. Mario Kempes was and Rainer Bonhoff were playing for Valencia then, so they had some good players, great players, but we lost on penalties, and I missed one of the penalties. And, I was the Arsenal penalty taker, and I missed mine, and we got beat in a shootout, But winning the cup in '79 at Arsenal, the cup was huge then in England. Maybe it's diminished its importance because of the Champions League now. People are focused on that. There's more money on that. There's more prestige in the Champions League. So the cup has kind of been dropped in prestige. But back in the day, in '79, it was huge. We beat Man United 3-2. Arsenal, Man United, it's always a big game, isn't it? And then came to Juventus. Look, I think the best thing that happened to me was to play so long without any real injuries. I only really got a bad injury when I was 31, and I was back in England playing for West Ham.
Yeah.
To play I went at 15, I stopped at 34. 19 years is not bad. That's what I'm more proud of than anything else.
A great career. I mean, if it wasn't for that pitch,
at the top level, playing always at the top level.
If it wasn't for that pitch in Derby, I think you would have gone to Rhode Island as well, to an international tournament, which is
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, dreaded pitch at Derby County. It was just rolled mud, wasn't it? There was no grass on it. It was just rolled mud, and I ruptured my cruciate ligament, and I didn't get the chance to go in '88. By the time after this injury, by the time 1990 came around, Jack Charlton had moved on to other players.
Yeah. And I mean, do you look wistfully at the players these days and the pitches and the quality and the style of football they play now, and think that your game would have suited this style more?
I think so. I certainly would have benefited from the standard of pitch, because I was a runner with the ball. I dribbled the ball. It wasn't easy back in those bumpy pitches to keep control of the ball. So I think I would have enjoyed playing on the carpet they play on now. But I don't have any regrets about my time. I've had a great time. But if there's one thing I'm envious of, it's the pitches they play on.
And anyone in the Premier League got a comparable left foot to yourself, you think, these days?
There's a lot of Arsenal supporters think Odegaard were a bit similar. I think Jack Wilshere back in the day when he was playing for Arsenal, he was in my style. Yeah, probably Odegaard. He doesn't play as deep as I used to when I played for Arsenal. He's kind of in a position where he doesn't really come back. He's hanging about in that kind of last third of the pitch, isn't he?
Well, he has right behind it, protected.
I had to do a bit more than that. But when I went to Juventus, that's where I played.
Yeah. We had more freedom.
Yeah, I played number 10, and they just said, you do your work up in the last third of the pitch.
Talking about Jack Wilshere, you obviously had some part in his development at Arsenal as well, yes?
Yeah, he was one of the kids that came through, yeah. We had a good few. Ashley Cole, Kieran Gibbs, Fabregas came when he was only 16. They've had great success, and
they have.
Look at the best player at Arsenal, in my opinion. We have some great players, but the best player is Saka, and he's been with the club since he was 8. When I left the academy, he was about 12, but you could see that he had a big chance of going on to have a career.
And I think now with PSR as well, that there's more importance placed on these academies, and you see more and more of these players coming through, because it's, they're a lot cheaper to produce than it is to buy them, and they're pure profit if they're sold. So it seems the clubs are placing more and more emphasis on this.
So they should, and it's a great achievement to have a kid grow up at a club and then go on and play in the first team. I think the fans enjoy it, and you said, Simon, there are benefits. I think Manchester City would rather have Parma back than see him at Chelsea.
You can see the shirt.
That was a bit of a faux pas, wasn't it? A bit of a wrong move.
I think that's the one problem I think with PSR, is that actually you're better off selling these youth players to make pure profit often than actually keep them and develop them sometimes.
Well, there's an argument on both sides, isn't there? But I think it's a shame that you have to sell your best players so you fit with financial fair play, and
I agree. I
your
think
best young players. I think the fans they must look up. Man City fans must look up Palmer now and go, wow, what have we lost there?
it's that connection, isn't it? You want that connection with the player, and if he's grown up down the road, then you have that sort of feeling that he's one of our own.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the Tottenham fans had a chant for Harry Kane. He's one of our own. Now the Arsenal fans are singing it about Skelly. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, Skelly's a huge talent. Some game the other day. How did youth development change over your time? Since you came into Arsenal, you shook it up a lot, really, along the Wenger years.
Howard Wilkinson was director of football at the FA, and he really raised the standards of what he wanted from academies. They had to have a criteria of facilities, staffing, qualified coaches across all the age groups, and I think he raised the standards. The Premier League probably took it away a bit too far for me. They were wanting clubs to have psychologists for 8 and 9-year-olds, things like that, so that was a bit unnecessary, a bit over the top. And of course, the other thing that Wilkinson did was he got the clubs access to the boys before they were 13. Back in the day, the schoolboy football was run by the schools FA, and Wilkinson had a hell of a battle to get away from that. He won it, thankfully. And I think if you look at the England team now and look at all the kids that have been homegrown at academies.
It's quite remarkable.
It's a powerful team, isn't it? Powerful team.
I think, as you said, it just shows that when you start younger and you're bringing them through and putting that mentality in, it pays off. And they actually play football now, whereas beforehand, I think, under the school system, players often got overlooked for size, and it was often,
Exactly, yeah. People were getting games from front of skillful kids because they were smaller. They were going to win a match because they had big boys.
Yeah. Oh, so you have a home in Phuket now, and you come here every winter. Do you ever have any plans to get more involved with Thai football, or?
No, my football days are over. Apart from watching it, Simon, I don't really want any involvement in it.
Yeah, just enjoy your retirement.
Yeah, and look, when I go back to England later on this month, towards the end of the month, I'm going to go to Boston. I've been invited to Boston to speak to the Arsenal Supporters Club in Boston. It's not a bad gig. It's not a bad gig.
You're still an ambassador for the club?
Yeah, we have fan clubs all over the world. I'm sure there's an Arsenal fan club in Thailand somewhere, but I know Liverpool and Man United are big, and that Robbie Fowler and John Barnes are always over here.
No, they're all playing golf, I think, in about 2 or 3 weeks' time up in Bangkok. So
are they? Yeah.
A classic with lots of them. Thank you so much for your time, Liam. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Simon.
It's been lovely talking to you.